So what now? The knowledge says I am now awakened as an invoker or an enchanter. Which one am I? Ning asked. He looked into more information regarding that. The way to tell apart an invoker from enchanter was to use ether itself and try to do something with it. Either create stuff or manipulate what already exists. Let's try creating water. See if that works, Ning thought. He closed his eyes and started visualizing flowing water inside of his mind. As the image started forming inside of his mind, ether started bubbling inside his sea of ether. The ether was burning. Ning could physically feel something changing in his body. Slowly, droplets started forming in front of him and got together to form water. He tried to concentrate as much as he could on flowing water when suddenly, his body lost all energy and he fell onto the ground. The drops of water that were forming in front of him dropped onto the back of his head, letting him know that at the very least, he was successful. What happened? He asked as he got back up. The feeling of lack of energy had now disappeared. Why did I fall? He tried to figure out. Oh, he said when he remembered a bit of information from the knowledge regarding ether and ether users. When one's ether in their body completely disappears, their body stops functioning until they get their ether back. Thank God I had the automatic collection one, or I would have had to spend many minutes trying to collect ether, Ning thought. At least, I know I am an invoker now, Ning thought. As the ether slowly filled his sea of ether, it also increased the size of the sea of ether. I want to see how far I can go with my current size of the sea of ether, Ning thought, and without hesitation, jumped into the crater. Immediately, he opened up a barrier and put all of his focus into using his divine sense to check the sea of ether. Within seconds, he was blasted out of the crater and was thrown quite far away from the crater this time. He landed on a piece of wood and rolled down onto the fresh snow. He only got to check his sea of ether for mere seconds, but that was enough. With the current size of my sea of ether, I should be able to become ether student and be halfway along the way to become an ether master. After getting fully acclimated to the ether, maybe I can increase the rate at which I can absorb and reach up there quite fast, Ning thought. Suddenly, he slapped himself. No, stop getting sidetracked. You need to leave this place first. You can come back here years later. Until then, you have people you care about, Ning said to himself. After that, he decided to go back up to the top of the crater and restart the routine. Crack, Ning thought and looked at what he had stepped on. It was the wood that he landed on. The wood was fully covered in frost, and when he stepped on it, the outer frost had cracked. What's this? He thought and looked at it. It was a thick, rectangular wood with some carvings on it. The sun still wasn't up, and Ning knew that was because he was in the south pole of the continent. So, he turned towards the aurora to get some more light. Is this a writing? Ning wondered. He only had basic language skills, so the most he could do was communicate verbally. If he wanted to do anything else, he would either have to ask the system for higher level knowledge of that particular language or just learn the language as everyone else did. System, can you translate this? Ning asked. It is written in the general language of the continent. It says, here lies Feroy, Feroy. Is that a name? Ning wondered. He then looked around him and wondered, is this a headstone of a grave? He tried to search for more and soon found many similar headstones buried here. I don't see any graves though. Is it perhaps buried really deep? Ning wondered. He tried for a bit, but then gave up and walked back up to the edge of the crater. He was going to restart the routine all over again. He jumped back into his spear and took his body inside him and went back to sleep. After 3 months of collecting energy, he now had a little less than 8 billion kinetic energy. In the next 10 iterations, he had about 8.6 billion kinetic energy. In the next 10 iterations, he had about 9.2 billion kinetic energy. In the next 10 iterations, he had about 9.8 billion kinetic energy. Ning looked at his status and made a big grin. Just a few more days and he could increase the cap with his kinetic energy as well. So, happily, he went back to the spear and took back his body. Then, he asked the system to put him to sleep. As soon as Ning fell asleep, he was awakened as well. He slowly got back into consciousness and suddenly, he felt something. Movement, he thought. He could feel the spear moving in a general direction. Sigh, it was an unfortunate event, but you need to stop thinking about your father's death now, Famir. It was not your fault. He went inside the forbidden forest to find the beast cores on his own. A voice came from near Ning. He looked around and saw a group of people walking around barren land. The spear was being held by a rather elderly person. The youth in front of Ning, who was around 18 years old, had a red face with teary-eyed. Did his father die? Ning wondered and started to feel sad for him. So, he is an orphan now, huh? It's certainly going to be hard for him. I know, Grand Uncle, but if I hadn't told him that there might have been a way to heal my sister, he would have never went to the forest at all, the young boy said as he started crying once again. Shish. Don't cry. You have to be strong now. Your sister needs you. Here, take this. This spear is yours now, the old man said. But Grand Uncle, you found this. You should take it, the boy replied. Just shut up and take it. What need is there for an old man like me to take it, huh? If you don't want to use it, then sell it or something. You should be able to earn a few rops with this, the old man said. Thank you, Grand Uncle, the young said and took the spear. All the while, Ning was trying to figure out where exactly he was. He looked to the right of him and saw a massive forest, and on the left was a massive, empty expanse of barren land. After the old man handed the spear away, Ning finally got to see more behind him, far away from where the group was walking. He could see the mountain he had been all this time there. Wow, that's so far away. Did these people carry me back here in under a day? I wonder how, he thought. He didn't immediately come out of the spear. There were a lot of people around him and he didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble for himself. The group finally entered a small village and all the men walked away from the group to their own home. Famir, I am going back. If you need anything, come to this old man. Don't hesitate to ask us for anything, okay? The old man asked. Yes, Grand Uncle, Famir said and walked away as well. The village consisted of around 20 homes made up of stones and mud. Thankfully, it was green all around, and they were out of the barren lands. Famir walked through the village until he reached a house next to the forest. He walked inside and dropped the spear. Ning was curious about what he was doing until he saw him run into a room and sounds of sobbing appeared again. Sigh, I guess that's fine. The kid should cry a little more. Holding emotions in isn't really good for the body, Ning thought. Ning waited for half an hour, but the kid didn't stop crying at all. I can't believe I'm about to do this, Ning thought and threw out his body. As soon as his body was out, he switched bodies and took back his spear. He walked to the room with the kid in it and entered. The room was very small, barely 3 meters in length all around. Inside was a small bed, on top of which was a girl with a white cloth covering all but her face. She looked barely 13 years old. The kid named Famir was crying right next to her. This is the sister he was talking about, huh? Ning thought. Hey kid, get yourself together. You have a sister to take care of, Ning said. Who? Famir turned to the side and saw Ning's unfamiliar face. When he realized he didn't know the person, he looked around to find a suitable weapon. He ran up to a small stick by the side and held it in front of him. Sigh, I'm not here to do anything bad to you, kid. I'm here to help you, Ning said. Who are you? Famir asked with a quivering voice. Ning had a sense of déjà vu. He smiled a bit and said, God. What? Famir looked confused for a second and then immediately got more scared. Someone who would call themselves a god was likely never a good person. Ha ha ha. I guess that answer only works on high C. I was joking, don't mind my answer. I'm just a wandering nobody who saw you crying and came to help. I will leave once I help you, Ning said. Who are you? Why should I trust you? Famir asked. Ning shook his head. Suddenly, the stick in Famir's hand slipped out and fell onto Ning's arms. Wah! Famir suddenly started floating in the air. Ning put him down and said, if I was here to do something bad to you, I would have done so already. So you can be sure that I am not here to harm you, Alex said. Why, you are an enchanter, Famir said in surprise. An enchanter? Ning was a little confused, but then he remembered that enchanters could manipulate existing objects. I see. Telekinesis is in some way an enchanter's ability, Ning thought. I am an ether user, but that's not something you have to worry about right now. Have you eaten yet? Ning asked. Famir shook his head. Ning took out a fruit from his storage and handed it to him. Famir's eyes went wide as he looked at the yellow fruit in front of him. He tried to search for storage rings in Ning's finger but couldn't find any. However, just the fact that Ning owned a storage device showed that he was not a random nobody. Take it, Ning said. Famir finally got out of his shock and quickly took the fruit and started eating it. Ning looked at him very closely as the fruit he had just given was an emerald mango. The mango should have healing properties, but that was only when it had chi. But what about in a world that did not have chi? Surprisingly, the answer was simple and in some ways, very unexpected. Even though Ning brought the mango out of a world of chi, the chi was still in the mango. So when Famir ate the mango, he also acquired a bit of the chi in it. Suddenly, bits of black waste started leaving Famir's body. What is happening to me? He screamed in terror. Ning on the other hand watched in absolute shock. He entered the first chi condensation realm. He is a cultivator now. The kid started to freak out. Seeing black, disgusting goo ooze out of every single patch of his skin was a very disturbing scene for him. Don't worry. It's helping you. It's throwing out all that was bad inside of you, Ning explained. Famir heard it but still didn't stop freaking out. It slowly started to stink in the room, so Ning picked him up and threw him out of the room. Go take a bath, he ordered. There was a well behind Famir's house, and Famir quickly took a bath from that water. Once all of the gunk was washed away, it revealed a well-built body hidden underneath. What? How is my body so good? Famir asked in surprise. He had never had a body like this and now surprisingly, there it was. All right, come back kid. Finish your food, Ning said from the side. Famir slowly walked back into the home while looking at Ning with a weird face. What? Ning asked curiously. I'm not a kid, you know, I'm already 17, Famir said as he walked inside. Well, I am around 24 years old now, so you are still a kid in my eyes, Ning said. What? No way, Famir said in surprise. You barely look 19. Ning was a little surprised. Nobody ever really commented on his age in Kumiya, but that was because they were all used to people looking out of their age. But here, where age could be told by how a person looked, he was considered much younger than he actually was. Ning smiled and said, Thank you. I do look young, don't I? Anyway, go finish your food, then we can heal your sister. Famir's eyes widened when he heard that. You can heal my sister? He asked with tears in his eyes. Ning rubbed his head and said, Yes, I can. Famir got down on his knees and started shouting, Thank you so much. He bowed onto the ground until his head touched the floor. Hey, get up. Don't say thank you until I've healed her, Ning said. Now, go eat your food and I will see what is wrong with your sister, Ning said. Famir nodded and went to go finish his emerald mango. Ning sighed as he saw that. Famir had become a cultivator, but he didn't know of it yet, and would likely never know since he would never get any chi to begin with. Sigh, at least his body is healthy now. He will probably go on to live for hundreds of years, Ning thought. Now, let's see what's wrong with his sister. He looked at the little girl that was around the age of Hi-C when he first met him. He checked her pulse, skin color, eye movements, everything that a doctor would. Can you heal her? Famir asked from the side. Ning was stumped. He would be able to tell what was wrong if it was a mortal problem, but surprisingly he couldn't, which meant, this was likely an ether-related problem. He couldn't see any option other than to ask the system for the problem. Wait a second. Famir, you said you knew what her problem was, right? Can you tell me what you know? He asked. I said that. Famir asked in surprise. I heard it when you were coming down the mountain, Ning said. Why yes. I went to the library and saw that there have been cases of people falling into a coma after awakening. The book said it was because the newly awakened person uses ether without learning an absorption technique first, Famir said. Ether, no wonder. I assumed she was immortal, but if she is an ether user, that would explain a lot. Tell me, how exactly did she fall into a coma? Ning asked. Well, one day around a year ago, she suddenly awakened after eating a fruit she found in the forest. I later learned that the fruit had contained ether and was the cause behind her awakening. After she awakened, Mavena tried to help father with a little work but ended up straining her body too badly. She fell onto the ground unable to move. For the first few days, she was only paralyzed, but after a few months, she went into a coma. I've been trying to find a way to cure her ever since and, only if I hadn't said something so stupid, father would have still been alive. Famir started sobbing again. What did you tell your father, Famir? Ning asked. I told him that, sister would be fine as long as, she got some ether in her body. So the most likely way, would be to find that fruit from before, Famir said. Ning contemplated on that information and realized there was nothing wrong there. He had done his fair share of research before coming to this conclusion. Let me just check if it is all true. System. What is wrong with the sister? Ning asked. After spending a few million energy, the system gave him all the answers he wanted. When Ning read the answer, he was really surprised. It was exactly what the kid had said. The only thing different was that there was more than one treatment. However, the fruit was the easiest one of all. System, can I create the fruit? Ning asked. You can create the fruit, but not the ether inside. Well, I guess there is nothing you can do about that then. Ning turned to look at Famir. All right, you stay here. I will go get your fruit from the forest, Ning said. No. Famir shouted. You will get hurt. Ning stopped. Are there monsters in the forest? He asked. Monsters? No. Well maybe, but that's not the problem. The fruit is ridiculously high up in the tree. You will die if you fall from there, just like my father, Famir said with tears in his eyes. Ning smiled and said, you just worry about your sister. I can take care of myself just fine. Ning put up a hand to block the sun that was far away at the horizon. Well, at least I am far enough from the mountain that there is sunlight now, albeit in the form of a perpetual morning sun, Ning thought. Then, he walked into the forbidden forest that was right next to Famir's house. As soon as he walked into the forest, he couldn't help but get shocked. Holy sh*t. He wasn't lying when he said the trees were tall. No wonder his father died after falling from such height, Ning thought. The trees were not just tall, but also very dense. Just 10 meters into the forest, the light inside had reduced by half in terms of brightness. This is dozens of times more scary looking than the forest outside of Starsight City, Ning thought. He had gotten an idea of what the fruit looked like from the system, as well as learned what the tree looked like too. So, he kept an open eye for the fruit along the way. Well, fortunately, there are no monsters here. I would have had to waste my time if there were, Ning thought. Also, how the hell did Famir's father even make his way through this forest? More than that, how did anyone even find Famir's father's body? Ning wondered. As far as he could see, not a single sign of humans were in the vicinity. People truly didn't like going into the forest. After nearly an hour of trekking, Ning finally found the tree that resembled his image in his mind. The tree was very tall, at around nearly 100 meters tall, and was about 5 meters in diameter. It was a straight tree with no branches at all. Instead, the trunk of the tree was covered with tangled vines that started from the top of the tree. At the very top of the tree was a single fruit that was floating towards the sky, tethered only by the small vine it was attached to. Ning grabbed the cluster of vines and walked up. As soon as he placed his hands on the tree, the vines moved to give Ning a better grasp. Huh? Ning thought in confusion. He then placed his left foot on the vine, and it too opened up to give him a better foothold. That's not bad, Ning thought and started climbing. He hadn't even climbed 10 meters up when he realized it was a very comfortable climb until now. However, in the back of his head, he could tell that this was too easy. Why would the tree make it too easy for me to climb? Ning wondered. Could it be that this tree is going to let me go halfway to the top and then throw me down? That was a definite possibility. After all, Famir's father did die from falling too, he thought. Still, he wanted to see what the tree was going to do. The entire way through, he expected the vine he was stepping on to loosen up suddenly and have him fall 50 meters onto the ground. However, rather surprisingly, nothing happened. The entire way through, the tree was very supportive of his climb. What the hell? Ning thought. He then saw the fruit in front of him. It was a large peach-like fruit that was about the size of dried coconut. So this is it, huh? He thought and grabbed the fruit. Just as he was about to pull it out, suddenly, 2 green flaps appeared from either side of the tree and caught him there. What the hell? Ning was surprised. What is this? He shouted. Suddenly, the walls started secreting a pungent-smelling viscous liquid. They slowly slid down the wall and made their way to the center where Ning was. Could it be, this is a carnivorous plant? Ning thought in surprise. However, he wasn't scared. The fruit was still in his hands. He ripped the fruit and immediately told the system to teleport him back to Famir's house. Without delay, Ning disappeared. He appeared outside Famir's house and dusted himself. What was that? No wonder it helped me climb so far up. It wanted to eat me, Ning thought. Did Famir's father really die by falling from such a tree? Ning thought. System, give me information on that tree just now. Information flooded Ning's mind and he started to learn about the tree. The tree was a carnivorous tree that liked to kill humans and animals to gain their nutrients, as well as their minute amount of ether. It provided a fruit as a lure and helped everything get to the top just so it could eat it. That's interesting. There is no way Famir's father should have fallen from such a tree, Ning thought. He could sense some sort of hidden plot of someone. Ning decided to ignore that thought for now. He looked at the fruit in his hand. He walked into the house and found Famir asleep next to his sister's bed. Even as he fell asleep, he didn't leave her alone. Famir, wake up, he said. Huh? Famir slowly opened his eyes and started rubbing them. What is it, father? He said as he stood up. Only then did he realize who was standing in front of him. Oh, he thought when he remembered everything. Sadness welled up inside him once more. Hey, kid. You can cry or do whatever you want to, but do it after you've healed your sister, Ning said. Famir's body shivered a little. Did you get the fruit? He asked. Ning threw the peach towards Famir. This is it. This is the fruit from the book, the one that sister ate, Famir said. Thank you so much, senior. Famir started thanking him relentlessly. All right, do that later. First, let's help your sister. Bring me a bowl, Ning said. Yes, Famir said and ran out to the kitchen before bringing back a wooden bowl. Ning took the bowl and placed it on the ground. Let's start. Famir stood up, all ready. What do I need to do? He asked. He was unable to hold himself still when his hopes of getting his sister back from a year-old coma were rising again. He was very excited. You don't have to do much. Just sit back and watch, Ning said and took the fruit. He caught the top and bottom of the peach horizontally and twisted it so that it split vertically along where the natural line in the peach was. He took the seed and threw it outside the window. Do you have a clean cloth? He asked. Famir immediately ran to the other room and brought back a single shirt. The shirt looked dirty, but that was just because of its bland color. This is my shirt, will this work? Famir asked. This is clean, right? Ning asked just to make sure. Yes. I cleaned it myself a week ago, Famir replied. Very well then. Ning took the cloth and put the peach inside of it. Then, he closed the cloth around the peach and started crushing it. Juices seeped out of the shirt and flowed onto the bowl. Ning crushed it multiple times before he managed to extract every single bit of juice that was in the fruit. The resulting liquid was a light brown colored juice that reflecting quite a bit of light back. There is ether there, Ning said as he looked at it. Ning tossed the fruit to Famir and walked next to the sleeping sister. The bowl of juice flew up next to him without any assistance. Famir couldn't help but be shocked when he saw such an impressive usage of ether. Ning supported the sister's body by the neck and opened up her esophagus. He then pulled her jaw back and slowly started pouring the juice onto her mouth. He did that in batches and waited for the juices to be swallowed before putting in more. Once he was halfway done, he stopped. He put her down and pulled up her bedsheet. That should be enough, Ning said. Senior, shouldn't you feed her all of it? Famir asked. No, need. As soon as she absorbs the ether in the juice, she will wake up. Once she wakes up, you can just teach her an ether absorption method, and it will all be fine, Ning said. I see. So, my sister will be okay? Famir's eyes started tearing up again. Ning smiled. Yes, she will. Good job on finding the fruit on your own. That helped your sister a lot. Thank you, senior. Thank you very much. Famir started bawling out in tears. Ning wanted to ask him to stop crying but didn't see any problems with him crying right now. Hey, Famir, he said. Yes, senior? He asked as he sniffed a little. Drink the rest of the juice, Ning said with a wink. I'll see you later. Good luck. Ning walked out of the house and went around the small village to see what the daily life here was like. No matter where he went, he only found people staring at him. Why are they staring? My skin is the same color as them, same for the hair, Ning thought. If it were Clavis, he could understand being stared at, but not right now. A big buff man suddenly walked in front of him. This was a tall dude with rough beards and a body that would make a bear cower in fear. Visitor, can you tell us the purpose of your visit? He asked. Ning looked at the man and couldn't see any wrong intentions in his eyes. I'm just walking around to see what this village was like. You don't have to worry about me, Ning said with a smile and tried to go around the man. The man instead walked again and blocked him. That is not going to cut it here. This is a peaceful village, and I can't have city folks come here and do whatever they want. Please state your intentions here, the man asked. City folk? Why do you think I'm from the city? Ning asked. Why else? Your clothes obviously. Nobody could wear such colorful clothes other than the city folks, the man said. Ah, Ning said as he realized. He was wearing the blue robe from the Blue Dragon sect and had forgotten about it. I see. Well, I wasn't lying about my intentions, I just want to look around the village. Please tell me the truth, visitor, the big man said. Sigh. Ning suddenly pointed a finger towards the man and flicked the finger upwards. Immediately, the man was thrown some 50 meters in the sky, before falling down. People around the town screamed when they saw that. People closed their eyes and looked aside just as the man was about to fall down. Ning stopped him in midair and gently landed him on the ground. The man had the fear of God put into him. As I said, I am not here with any bad intentions. I would have done something bad by now if I wanted to, Ning said. The man was still in shock and didn't hear most of what Ning said. However, the villagers heard him and that was enough for him. He tapped the man and woke him out of the shock. What's your name? He asked. My name? It's Janger, he said. Janger, what do you do? Ning asked. I am a carpenter, he said. Oh, you made such a big body by carpentering? Ning asked in surprise. I also cut trees on the site, he added. Oh, a carpenter and a lumberjack. No wonder, you are this huge, Ning said. He then patted Janger on the shoulders and said, you are doing a good job, but tone it down a little. Even good men will get angry if you annoy them, Ning said. He then walked away, leaving the crowd and Janger behind in shock. It took them about 5 minutes before they went back to doing their own things, but news of Ning soon spread through the whole village. Ning looked around the village and realized that it wasn't that great of a village. It barely had maybe 100 people living in it, and most of them just did what they could to make a living. Sigh, this is a very poor village, Ning thought. The sun was already down, but the light from the aurora still hit the village and make it light up quite a bit. Let's go back, Ning thought and returned back to Famir's house. When he walked in, he found Famir huddled up in a corner next to the bed. The bowl was empty, so he seemed to have drunk all of the juice. All right, while he is asleep, let me go and collect some energy from the mountain top, Ning thought. System, teleport. Not enough energy. The natural seal around the mountain is too strong. Host will require more energy to break through it. There is a seal? How come I never saw that? Ning asked. Seal is at the base of the mountain. So can you teleport me to the base of the mountain? Ning asked. Yes, all right. Let's go. Ning immediately disappeared from where he stood and appeared on the base of the mountain. From here, he could see that the mountain was around 5 kilometers tall. Is there really a seal here? Ning thought. He picked up a stone from the ground and hurled it as far as he could. Instead of flying far away, however, the stone struck an invisible wall and in a flash of purple light was destroyed to smithereens. Geez, there really is one. Is it that hard to get across? Ning asked and placed his palms on the seal's barrier. Another flash of purple appeared and Ning's right arm was blown to smithereens as well. Arg! What the FCK? He couldn't help but scream. He hadn't expected the seal to be this strong. Damn, I still don't understand why I can't just teleport inside. Isn't this just a barrier? Why can't I go inside? Seals are different from normal barriers. Seals seal away space from the surrounding. So, while the mountain is still in Vilmore, the seal is making it so that it isn't. Damn, so I can never go back there? Ning asked. There are 2 ways. First, gather a lot of energy to break the seal on your own and enter. Second, find the key to the seal and open it. Since you said a lot, it's probably not even in the billions anymore. Let's go with option 2. Where is the key to the seal? Ning asked. There is no specific key to the seal. So there is more than one? What is this key then? Ning asked. A human corpse. The seal will only open for 5 minutes when it comes in contact with a human corpse that hasn't awakened with ether yet. Whoa, I can't find those sorts of keys. What sort of psychopath makes this sort of seal? Ning asked angrily. This is a natural seal. Nobody made this seal but nature itself. Gosh, so I don't even have anyone to blame for me not getting to go in? Damn, that sucks. Now I will have to wait until someone dies before I can go in. In the meantime, this barrier will do, I guess, Ning thought. When he had placed his palm on the barrier, there was so much energy output from there that not only had it filled its cap, it had exceeded far beyond anything he had felt yet and destroyed his arms completely. Very well. I shall come back daily to gather energy from here, he thought, and teleported back to Famir's house. Famir was still sleeping, so he decided to go and try some ether arts. I'm an invoker, right? I should see how much water I can create with the ether in my body, Ning thought. He took out the bowl from the room and kept it in front of him before starting to visualize water in his mind. The image of water flowing felt very real to him, and at the same time, inside his sea of ether, the few ethers that he had gathered had started to boil once again. They disappeared from the sea of ether, and suddenly, in front of him, droplets of water started forming. Ning opened his eyes to see it. There were about a dozen or so droplets of water formed in front of him. He was about to slowly place those droplets on the bowl, but suddenly, his whole body froze and he fell to the ground. This happened due to him overusing his ether and drying out the sea. If it were someone without any absorption technique, they would be unable to move right now until they somehow got ether or ended up in a coma. Those that did have an absorption technique would use the technique and gather some ether before standing back up. Ning didn't even have to do that, as his body automatically absorbed enough ether right now to go from ether starter to ether student in just 10 days. He stood up and looked at the bowl in front of him. He weighed the drops of water and found out it was around 13 milligrams. He then waited for him to go back to being full with ether and started forming more water once again. He continued doing that for the rest of the night. By the time morning arrived, he was starting to make around 30 drops of water. That's a good enough progress for a day, I guess, Ning thought. He let the water fall from the bowl and stood up to go back into the house. Just then, he saw Famir rubbing his eyes as he looked at him. Yan Sr., what are you doing so early in the morning? He asked. Also, why are you so dirty? Ning looked down and realized that falling onto the ground for so long had in fact made him quite dirty. Oh, never mind this, Ning said and snapped. All the dirt in his clothes fell to the ground. Let's go back in. Famir was surprised to see Ning's usage of enchantments. He still believed that everything Ning was doing was ether arts. Do you feel any different? Ning asked. Different? No, not really. I think it failed, Famir said. Try using it. Try invoking or enchanting. If you did become an ether user, you will know then, Ning said. Famir stopped walking and hesitated a bit. Should I really try it, Senior? He asked. Of course. How else will we know? Ning said. No, I mean. Famir slowly turned towards his sister and pointed towards her. Won't I end up like Mavenna? He asked. Oh, sh*t. You're right. Nearly forgot about that, Ning said with an embarrassed smile. I still need to learn more, Ning said. Famir was a little confused as to what a senior with so much knowledge could mean, but didn't say anything. Should I get a random one from the system? Although, I am still quite unknown about the situation of this world. I don't know what would happen if I hand over the gold to these kids and leave. Bad people might come after him, Ning thought. Thinking along those lines, he thought of something and decided to ask. Famir, what's inside that mountain? Ning asked while pointing south. The peak of afterlife. It's where we send off our departed to the stars, Famir said. That reminded Ning of a question that he was a little confused about. Oh, by the way, who found your dad? Ning asked. It was one of Noble Cannon's men. He found my dad on the ground after he had fallen from the tree, Famir said with a sad voice. Noble? There is a noble in this village? Ning asked. No, he's in the next town over. It's an hour's walk from here, Famir said. I see, and does this town have the library too? Ning asked. Yes, Famir said with bright eyes. It's where I read all of the books. It's honestly an amazing place. I see, let's go there, Ning said. He needed to learn more about ether in this world. And to learn that, he first needed to learn what topics there were to learn. A place like a library that had different types of books would be a good way to get ideas on what to learn about. Senior, I need to look after my sister. I can't leave her all alone, Famir said. Wait for a second, Ning said and walked over to the room with the sister. Aegis, can you come out? He asked. Aegis flew out of the beast space and landed inside the room. He was cramped and could barely fit in the room while sitting down. Turn around and put your back to the door. Protect the girl over there, okay? I will return in a few hours, Ning said and left Aegis alone to look after the girl. All right, we are all set, Ning said as he walked back outside. Let's go. The two of them walked along the road and the people started whispering quietly when they saw Ning. I guess it's not surprising seeing how big of a show I put on yesterday, Ning thought as he facepalmed himself. When the villagers saw Famir, they walked up to talk to him, give him their condolences and tell them that if they needed anything then he could let them know. The entire village was like a big family. It reminded him about the people back in Clavis. Famir. Where are you going? An old man walked up to him. Ah, grand uncle, I am going to the town with Senior here. I will be back in a few hours, Famir said. Senior? The old man looked at Ning up and down. Tisk. I should have changed my clothes, Ning thought. It wasn't like he didn't have the clothes, he was just being lazy. Who might you be, visitor? The old man said. I'm a nobody, you don't have to worry about me. I needed help for something from Famir, so I was taking him to the town, Ning said. The grand uncle got a little alert when he heard that. Only that we need to worry about tell us that we don't need to worry about them, the grand uncle said. This is going to be troublesome, Ning said as he scratched his head. Janger. Janger. The old man shouted. What is it, father? Janger walked out of the house. However, the moment he saw Ning on the street, he started getting scared. This man here is. What's wrong with you? Why is your leg shaking? The grand uncle asked. No reason, Janger said. His father liked staying inside the house due to his old age, so he didn't know what Janger had gone through. This outsider here is trying to take Famir here with him. Go with him and make sure the kid is okay, the grand uncle said. Ning's face got better when he realized he wouldn't have to spend another half an hour trying to prove his innocence to the old man. But father, brother Janger, let's go to the town together. I would be quite happy to have someone so reliable with me as well, Ning said with a massive fake smile. Janger wanted to deny him, but seeing his father's annoyed face and Ning's smiling face, he knew he had no choice. Reluctantly, he agreed. That settles it then, doesn't it, Senior? I can have Famir here take me to the town, right? Ning asked. HMPH, it's okay now. Janger, make sure to beat him to a pulp if he tries anything funny with your nephew, the grand uncle said and walked back into the house. Ning looked towards Famir and asked, that old man cares quite a lot about you. Are you guys related? Famir shook his head. According to my father, after grandfather died, grand uncle basically looked after him until he was old enough to live on his own. He kept on calling him uncle, and after me and my sister were born, we followed our father and called him grand uncle as well. I see, Ning said. He turned to look at Janger and asked, so his father lived with you guys? Yes, brother Yian lived with us for a few years, Janger said. Oh, then you guys must have been quite close to each other, Ning asked. Oh no, I was maybe 6 years old when brother Yian came to live with us. He was around the same age as my late brother Nasi. Those two hit it off quite well, Janger said with a melancholic voice. Late brother? How did he die? Ning asked. He was cutting a tree and the tree fell on him, Janger said. Oh, that's quite sad. You have my condolences. Did you find your brother? Ning asked. No, it was some other people who found him and carried his body back home. That was 3 years ago, Janger said. Let's stop talking about this. You guys want to go to the town, right? Let's go, Janger said and started walking. Famir too would rather stop talking about the depressing talk, so he decided to start walking too. Ning followed behind them, but a thought kept on running in his mind. A lumberjack dying from a tree crushing him? Another person falling from a tree that doesn't let you fall? These are too much of a coincidence for there to not be anything sinister behind them, Ning thought. But he just couldn't pinpoint the motive. Then he thought, the seal. What seal? Famir turned around to ask. The seal in the mountain, the peak of afterlife. How often does it open? Ning asked. I don't know, once a month? Famir said and looked towards Janger for confirmation. Yes. Honestly, the village is cursed. Every month or two, someone dies here. I just want to leave the village already so I'm not the next one, Janger said. There is definitely something going on here, Ning thought. After an hour of walking, and crossing a 10-meter-long wooden bridge, they finally reached the town. Ning was quite surprised to see that the town was actually quite developed when compared to the village. There were a lot more people, and the buildings were a little more modern looking. They were still not very different from the residential areas in Deep Skull Island. The place was just way too far away from the whole continent, so it was understandable it wasn't as developed. He wanted to change his clothes, but turned out there were way too many people with colored dresses here, so he was fine for now. Famir took him to a small shop, which turned out to be the library. When Ning walked in, he was shocked. It's not even as big as my volunteer room, he thought. The room was around 10 meters long and 6 meters wide, and it was the only floor. There were a few desks inside and about 10 shelves with books on them. Ning approached the shelves and looked at the books. The cover and binding are so good. This world must be quite advanced. Only this corner of the continent must be too far away to get the good stuff, he thought. Famir walked up to him and looked around for a few seconds, before choosing a book and taking it away. Ning looked at the spines of the books and didn't know if he should laugh or cry right now. He only now remembered that he couldn't read at all, so coming to the library wasn't really the bright idea he thought he was. Whatever, I doubt his book is the best book out there, Ning thought. System, how much does the max information about the subjects in this book cost? H asked. The system gave him a number that maxed at around 45 billion energy. He didn't buy it immediately, however. That would be being too hasty, and he didn't have enough energy to splurge it around like that. Alright, let's try this. System, take every book that is in this library and place the global, non-repetitive version of this information into my auto-buy list, Ning said. System will require a one-time access of up to 2 million energy to scan every single book in this room. Use it, Ning said. The system stopped talking for a second and started scanning everything. After it was done, a bunch of new books got directly added to the auto-buy list. How many books are there? Ning asked. Around 34.7% of the books were deleted due to overlapping information or other complications. 12% of the books were deleted due to them being fiction. Remaining books have turned into 36 books. The books cost 18 billion energy. Let me see the prices of each one? Ning thought and went to check the list. He currently held about 6 billion energy, so even if he wanted to buy it all, he couldn't. Let's see what exactly I can buy first. This book about ether usages makes sense. Oh, there are monsters in this continent as well. Flowers and fruits can be helpful. Ning looked through every single book and in the end, decided to buy around 6 of them for now. It cost him nearly 3 billion since he chose the short books. Once he was done with buying books, he took a random one and sat next to Famir, and acted like he was reading. Instead, what he did was try to understand the 6 of them that he had just learned. The books had quite fascinating bits of information that Ning found quite fun to read. As he kept on reading them, his eyes turned a little sharp as he realized that he had been misunderstanding something about using ether. He referred back to own information he had gotten before and it told him the same thing. He just hadn't expected ethers and by association, ether users to be so unique when compared to chi. If this is true, then learning might just be the way to becoming a great ether user. Ning looked through his head and continued reading. The information there was just too much to sort out in just a few minutes. Thankfully, due to them being bought from the system, all he had to do was refer to them. This book is an entire book that does nothing but tell me what something is or something does. It's like a children's book for grown adults that help them visualize different kinds of stuff to use with ether, Ning thought. I see. So that is what it was. Ether isn't like chi where just by training, you can get strong eventually. It's actually the power of imagination. As long as you can imagine it, ether can help you do anything. Ning was absolutely thrilled to learn this. If visualization was all it was needed, he knew tons of things, remembered so much that it would be impossible for him to not visualize stuff very easily. He could tell that ether was going to be a lot of help for him. So falling down after your ether disappears is not that uncommon, huh? I guess people here are just used to it. Or maybe it's just not a well-known thing in this faraway land of nowhere, Ning thought and kept reading. Learning that it was the power of imagination, he started wondering how far the powers of ether could be pushed forth. When you burn away ether, your body looks for the next thing to burn, which happens to be the important nerves around the sea of ether and started burning it too. Yikes. Do people slowly lose functi? Oh, here it is. The damaged nerves are healed when the ether returns. However, if one kept up with the damage, they will go on a coma. I knew this. Why did I spend energy to get the same information twice? Tisk, Ning thought. After an hour or so, Famir finally tapped him, relaying that he was ready to leave. Ning looked to his other side and saw that Janger had been fast asleep with nothing else to do for him. Once he woke up, he too walked out of the library. So the library is free to use? Ning asked after walking outside. Yes. It's maintained by the noble canon, Famir said. You guys want to go check out anything? Or do we return for now? Janger asked. Let's go to some stores and see if there are some clothes to buy. I don't feel like walking around while looking like this, Ning said. Oh, I know a shop. This way, Famir said and started walking forward. They soon reached a shop and started looking through clothes. System, give me information on the currency here, Ning asked. Soon, he had basic information of currency here. The lowest currency was bronze coins that were also called sik, and 100 of those would join to be this alloy of silver and some other metal, also known as rop. How much energy do rops cost? He asked. It will cost you 5 million energy per rops. Wait a second. Didn't that cost me the same thing for gold coins back on Kumia too? I'm starting to sense a pattern here, Ning said. Yes, there is one. It costs you 5 million energy per highest denomination of currency in that land. Wait, so if the highest denomination of money in this land was only 6 with no rops, then would I have had to pay 5 million per sik? Ning asked in surprise. Yes, tisk. That's quite bad. How much do I have to pay now? He asked. 6 or 1/100th of a rop's value, so you will have to pay 50,000 energy per sik. Damn, that different just because there is a higher value currency above it, huh? Ning thought. No, wait a second. There were spirit stones above gold. Why didn't you count that? System cannot make spirit stones due to being unable to create energy. So, it doesn't count spirit stones as a currency, and chooses the next possible currency. So there really was a pattern to the prices, huh? What about prices for the other things I make you create? He asked. They have a price pattern as well. Non-organ ink, non-metallic creations cost 1 million energy per kilogram. Organic creations cost 2 million energy per kilogram. Metallic creations cost 4 million energy per kilogram. Objects will also cost more if their value is considered very high by the world. I see. All right, make me 20 rops for now, he asked. As the guys were looking through the shop, 20 rops appeared in front of Ning that he hid as quickly as it appeared. You guys have seen enough. Let's go pay and return back home, Ning said. Yes, senior, Famir said and took out a single pair of clothes from the place. Hey, that won't do. I thought I gave you ample time to choose. Why are you only taking one set of clothes? He asked. I don't have a lot of money. Famir got a little embarrassed. Ahem. Carpentering doesn't earn very much in the village, Janger said. Sigh, I will pay. Choose what you want, Ning said. Famir and Janger smiled, but they still only chose a few clothes. Goddamn you guys. Here, take these and this one too. Do you like that? Take it. Ning started dumping the clothes onto the guys more than they could handle. When they got to the front to pay for it, even the lady at the counter was in shock at the sheer volume of the clothes. She started to calculate the costs of all those clothes, so it was going to take some time. Two men with big bodies walked into the store and went right up to the counter. Be right there with you, the lady said without looking up. Hey, one of the gruff men said. We are not customers, lady. Look over here. The lady looked up and saw the 2 men and fear showed in her eyes for a second. She did not like seeing these 2 here. H. How much? The lady asked with a quivering voice. 56 for today and we come tomorrow, or 10 rops for the whole month. Your choice, one of the men said. I don't have that kind of money right now, the woman said. Cut the crap and give it to us fast. We don't have time to waste with you all day, the men said. I really don't have any. I have nothing to give to you, the woman said. Huh? Who do you think you are lying to? Look at this. You sell so much and you expect us to believe that you don't have anything? You are quite a brave woman, aren't you? The man said with an evil grin. Ning looked at him and really wanted to punch his face, but doing so would mean the man was going to die, and he didn't want the hassle of being a murderer in this world right now. Although, I might finally have a key to the seal, Ning thought and smiled a little. This is only my first sale of the day. These gentlemen haven't even finished paying yet, the woman said. This woman really wants to. Hey, brother. It looks like you have some business with the lady here, Ning said from the side. Yeah, we do. What does it have to do with you? The man said. Nothing really. It's just that I was here first, so if you have a business, then you will have to get in line behind us, Ning said. Haha, pal. It seems you have a lot of money to pay for these things. Why don't you pay us too? The man said as one of them moved his cloth just enough for Ning to see a hidden dagger. The man smiled when he noticed that Ning had seen it. Ning smiled too. He snickered towards the men and said, You think that little toothpick is enough to scare me? Why don't we see then? The man said and suddenly pulled out the dagger. He pointed it towards Ning and tried to act like he was going to stab him. Yeah, still not scared, Ning said. BTCH. Just shut up and hand over the money, the men said. Ning smiled and took one step closer. Oh ho, are you openly robbing me now? That feels like I have a reason to attack now, Ning said. Come stab me too. There is no other way I am going to give you money. The men got angry and the one with the sword suddenly stabbed at Ning. Ning looked at half the dagger sticking next to his cloth and got a little surprised. He really stabbed me. The man smiled sinisterly when he saw that half his dagger had entered Ning's left shoulders. You better bring your money out now, or I will twist this dagger ends. Ah! Scream of pain appeared from right next to the man. He looked behind him only to see his friend down on the ground, with his hands clutching his face and blood gushing out of it. Hey! What's wrong? He tried to pull out the dagger from Ning's body to check his friend. But suddenly, Ning caught his arm and held it in place. You're not going anywhere, Ning said. Famir, are there police or guards in this area? Ning asked. Noble Canon has guards that patrol the town. They are responsible for looking after the town, Famir said. Go call them. Tell them I have a criminal in my clutches, Ning said. Famir skipped past the two men and ran out of the door. Ning looked to the side and smiled as he said, Lady, don't mind us. Please just focus on counting the price for now, he said. The other man didn't stop screaming at all, and the blood was still gushing out. Without treatment, he would die soon. The man tried to pull his arm back, but no matter what. Yo! You? What are you planning on doing? I will stab your heart if you don't let go, he threatened. I don't doubt you will try to, Ning said, but with what blade? He slowly bent the man's hands away from his chest to reveal that his hands taken any damage and that it was the blade that had broken in half. You already used to pointy end to stab your friend back there, Ning said with a smile. Ho! How? The man couldn't believe what had happened until he thought of a possibility that shocked him. Ether user. Well, you are not very stupid, are why? Bam! Arg! The man screamed as he held his left arm against himself. He had just tried to punch Ning on the face and instead had his hands broken. Tisk. And here I just said you are not very stupid. Why did you feel the need to prove me wrong? Ning said. In here. Famir's voice came from the outside. Soon, two people in brown-green cloth walked into the shop and saw the two men in pain. What happened here? One of the guards asked. Oh, these men came here looking for protection money from the shop and then tried to rob me. So, I put them in their place, Ning said. The guards quickly checked the criminals and were shocked a little. Thank you for your help, sir, he said and took away the men. Well, that was enough fun for the day. Let's go back home, Ning said. The other two nodded. Lady, how much is the cost? Ning asked. I haven't finished counting, she said. Give me an approximate price. I don't have time to wait for so long, Ning said. The lady tried to guess the prices of the clothes all at once. Once she was done checking it all, she said, 8 rops and 36. Okay, Ning said and tossed 9 rops her way. Keep the rest. Suddenly, the stack of clothes on the counter disappeared and Ning started walking out. Ning had barely made it past the door when he heard a shout coming from inside. Mister, wait, the lady at the store cried out. Ning turned around to see that she had come out from behind the counter to talk with him. Did I miss something? He asked. Mister, you need to leave this town immediately. The men you just attacked were Crom's men. They will come to attack you once they realize that you laid your hands on one of his men, the lady said. Crom? Is that someone's name? Ning asked. You don't know Crom? The lady asked in surprise. He is a criminal, a bandit that lives nearby and terrorizes the town. Not even Lord Canon's people can do anything about him. Oh, so a bandit, huh? No wonder they were so violent. Thanks for the advice, miss. Ning nodded towards the lady and walked away. Famir and Janger followed him too. Have you guys heard of Crom? Ning asked. No, Famir said. I have, Janger replied. Both Ning and Famir looked towards him and waited for him to start speaking. I heard about him in another town I was visiting with my older brother a few years ago. Crom was a bandit that liked staying out of town and sent his men to do his work. It seems he has changed towns. I hope Lord Canon can deal with him. His menace shouldn't be left festering in this society, Janger said. I see. So he wasn't caught in so many years, huh? Ning said. By the way, senior, how did you break his dagger? I was pretty sure he stabbed you, Famir asked. Oh, that. Ning tried to think of an answer and said, I manipulated his dagger so that the sharp end was removed and it hit his buddy instead. Wow. You can do that with ether arts? Famir asked in surprise. Haha. There are a lot of things you can do with ether arts. Once I give you a technique to absorb the ether, I will teach you just how powerful ether can be under the right user, Ning said. Ning himself was looking forward to being proficient in the ether arts. Something that didn't require learning extensive techniques to use was always welcome from him. Also, a power that was based on someone's imagination was just too juicy for him to leave it alone. Damn, with this I won't have to rely on the system every time I need something made, he thought. Although, I can only make physical objects with this and I will still need the system for anything else, he thought. The thing he bought most from the system was knowledge, which he knew was impossible to acquire any other way. So, in the end, he would still have to rely on the system most of the time. They reached the village and Janger left them to return to his house. Wait, Ning said and took out a bunch of his clothes and gave them to him. Wear nice things from now on, Ning said and left before Janger could even say thank you. Famir followed Ning and returned back to his home. However, just before he reached his home, his pace quickened a bit. He couldn't tell whether he was hearing things or not, but it sounded like someone was screaming from his house. Famir's heart dropped when he thought of something. He immediately ran towards his house, leaving Ning behind. As he got closer to his house, he got more and more sure that he was in fact hearing screams. When he got to his house, he confirmed it. The screams really were coming from his house. The screams belonged to someone with a very hoarse voice. It sounded as if the person hadn't spoken in forever, and had thus lost the ability to speak. Also, they were of the feminine variety. No. Mavena. Famir screamed his sister's name and ran into his house. He directly ran into Mavena's room. However, there was a large golden object blocking his way in. He tried pushing on it, but no matter how hard he tried he couldn't do anything. Mavena. Are you okay? He asked. Brother? Is that you? A sobbing Mavena's voice came from the other side. Help me, brother. This monster will eat me, she started crying. Monsters? Famir's face dropped color. Move. He started screaming and pushed the golden object as hard as he could, but it just wouldn't budge. What can I do? He started thinking. He felt like he had no choice and had to do what he could as his last resort. He took a deep breath and started concentrating. Something grabbed his hand and he suddenly lost focus. He opened his eyes to see Ning standing right next to him. Senior. My sister, Mavena, he tried to explain. Don't worry. I left him to protect your sister. He isn't going to harm her, Ning said and walked up to the door. Good job, Aegis. You can come back and rest now. Aegis suddenly disappeared, leaving an open door and a screaming young girl inside. The moment Aegis disappeared, Famir ran into the room and found his sister hidden behind the bedsheets, clearly scared out of her mind. It's okay, Mavena. I am here, it's okay, Famir said as he got his little sister in an embrace. He held her shivering body until she calmed down. Ning decided to not interfere with the brother-sister reunion and walked outside. He sat down on the porch behind the house and looked at the magnificent sight of the peak spewing out the chi and ether. Soon, he could hear uncontrollable sobbing from inside the room. Ning felt a little sad listening to the cries of a young girl who had already lost her mother, and now learned that she had also lost her father. Suddenly learning you are an orphan now isn't very easy, is it? Ning thought. He looked to the room behind him and thought, thankfully, they have each other. They should be fine. He let the cries go on for a little longer and only went back in once he couldn't hear the sobbing anymore. Ning returned back to the room and saw the two siblings huddled together, still occasionally sniffling. Famir noticed Ning by the door and immediately got out of bed to run to Ning. As soon as he reached Ning, he got on his knees and started thanking once again. Thank you, senior. Thanks to you I got my sister back. Seeing that Famir was likely going to cry once again, Ning grabbed him and said, You got your sister back because you persevered. You went to the library and learned everything you could. You were the one that found out about your sister's illness and the cure for it. I was just a person who went to get it, so, don't thank me. Thank yourself, Ning said. Famir tried to say something, but Ning left him and walked to the bedside. Hello, little miss. How are you feeling right now? Ning asked. Who? The girl was a little bit scared seeing Ning. Mavena, this is the senior that helped in healing you. Famir quickly got to them and said, you should thank him. Thank you, senior, Mavena said with a hoarse voice and tried to get out of the bed to bow to him, just like her brother. Wait, don't move. You can't move just yet, Ning said. That's right, Mavena. You've been in a coma for nearly a year, you will need to wait for a few more months of training to get you back on your feet, Famir said. I can't walk? I see. Okay, Mavena said in a sad voice. I am sorry, but that's just how it is, Famir said. Not really. Not when you have me, Ning said. He immediately brought out some random ingredients and started smashing them in a mortar and pestle that he brought out himself. Once they formed a paste, he put some water in it so that her body could handle it better. He handed it over to her and said, eat this. The girl hesitated when she saw the weird-looking green water and looked towards her brother for confirmation. Famir nodded when he saw this and the girl drank it. The moment that she drank it, Ning remembered something and winced a little. A terrible scream was going to come out soon. Ah! What's happening to my body? What is this? The girl started shouting in a normal-sounding voice rather than a hoarse one. It's okay, Mavena. I went through that as well. We can get you cleaned up. Let me carry you, Famir said and walked forward. However, before he could reach the bed, Ning stopped him and shook his head. Little miss, can you walk now? He asked. Walk? Didn't you say I can't walk? She said and suddenly put her arms over her mouth. I can speak normally now. What's going on? Huh? You can? But how? Famir was surprised as well. The medicine I just gave you helped you. For now, try to come out of the bed, Ning said. Mavena slowly lifted her bedsheets and showed the black goo all over the inside of them. From there, her two legs slowly lifted and she placed them on the ground next to her. She pushed herself off the bed and tried to stand. She nearly lost her balance, but Famir came in to give her a hand. It's okay, brother. I can walk, she said. Famir nodded and slowly let go of her hand. Mavena tried to balance herself and succeeded in doing so. She slowly placed a foot forward and then placed another forward. Famir was behind her all the way to grab her in case she lost her balance, which she didn't. She went outside to get washed and Ning decided to wait for them inside. He looked at the mess there was on the bed and asked the system to clean it. Within a second, all the unnecessary gunk disappeared from the room, and it barely cost him a dozen or so million energy. Is my daily cap off cooldown, system? He asked. You still have 5 hours before the cap comes back. God, it's so hard to keep track of time here. There is barely 6 hours of sunlight and yet, it never gets dark thanks to the aurora. I need a watch or something, he thought. Actually, no, do I even have enough energy to waste? I need to make the nigh indestructible ball to go through that wormhole, he thought. Speaking of which, how much energy will it cost to make a small marble-sized ball that can survive that onslaught of chi and ether? Ning asked. It will cost you exactly 23 billion energy to make a ball that can survive the maelstrom without external help. 23 billion, huh? If I can get kinetics cap increase, 23 billion will take me exactly a month or so, assuming I don't use it elsewhere, and I can even absorb so much energy in a day, he thought. Given that I have the other few things to buy, let's give a conservative 2 months' time before I have to leave, Ning thought. Ugh, I am going to be late again, Ning thought as he remembered the promise he had made to the other people. System, save those things at the top of the auto-buy list, he said and forgot about it for now. Famir and Mavena came back to the room. Ning looked at the little girl with her clear face with 0 blemishes and her body that was suffering from no muscle atrophy. It seems the medicine from one world works well in another world as well, he thought. Congrats, little miss. You are all healed now, Ning said. Now, don't go using those ether arts once again just yet. You don't have any ether absorption method, so you can't absorb any when you are down. I won't, Mavena said with a serious face. Haha, you won't have to worry about it for long. I will teach you an absorption method very soon. Ning decided to check his status before he did anything. He wanted to see how much heat, chi, and ether energies he had with him. Unfortunately, his ether absorption speed was very slow, so he didn't have any more than a couple of thousand ethers. As for chi, he didn't have a lot of it either. In the end, he would have to use his heat energy, which he only had about 3 billion of after buying those knowledges back in the library. That should be enough, he thought. Then he decided to get himself a new absorption technique that he could pass to these kids. System, Are there good ether absorption skills under 1,000,000,000 energy? He asked. You can buy Abyssal Absorption Art for 980 million energy. Do it. Also, make a copy for these kids, Ning said. The system used a little more energy to create the book, but Ning didn't mind. Suddenly, a book appeared in front of him at the same time information loaded into his head. Mavenna was shocked when she saw it, but Famir was used to it and assumed he was using his storage device once again. Here, take this. It's a book that will teach you an absorption technique. After that, you can learn ether as much as you can, Ning said. Hey, are you really giving this to us, senior? Famir asked in surprise. What is that, brother? Mavenna asked. It's a technique that lets you absorb ether and get stronger. After learning this, you won't ever have the same problem as before even if you make the same mistake again, Famir said. Mavenna gasped. Then it must be expensive, right? Of course. Even the worst of the worst absorption arts apparently cost around 100 rops from what I read in those books, Famir said. Mavenna couldn't help but gasp once more. Senior, we don't need this. Us brother and sister won't ever use this ether. It's bad luck for us. Not only did using it make me go into a coma, it was also the reason why we lost our father. We don't want to ever use it, she said. Famir was a little surprised when he saw his sister take such a strong stance against it. He was very conflicted about what his answer should be right now. On one hand, it was a golden opportunity that was too good to be missed. On the other hand, it was in fact very inauspicious for them whenever ether was in question. In the end, he decided to follow in his sister's lead despite his gut saying not to. I'm sorry, senior, but I will have to go with Mavenna here. Also, you have already given us so much. Any more and we will start feeling guilty about everything. So, we can't accept this. Please, understand, he said. Ning was a little stumped. But I paid so much energy on it, he thought. He didn't want to take it back just yet. How about this? You say you want to thank me, right? Then learn this. You are free to choose if you want to learn ether arts or not, just learn this absorption art. This way I can be sure that you guys won't fall into a coma again, Ning said. The siblings both hesitated, but in the end, accepted his request. Ning sent the both of them to the other room to learn the book, while he decided to try it out himself as well. He looked into the absorption art and was a little surprised. Holy crap! This is a good technique, perhaps much better than my automatic one, he thought. The abyssal absorption art was designed to rapidly intake ether from the surrounding within the least amount of time possible and then slowly filter it once it got into your body. This usually required a robust body to handle the intensity of those small bursts of ether absorptions at the start. They should be fine. They are in a sense cultivators now. Although I should hand them the body cultivation art just in case, Ning thought. He didn't know if those worked or not, but he was damn sure he would try to teach them that. He ignored all stray thoughts and took a deep breath. Suddenly, he felt as though the pores in his entire body were all opened at once. The ether in the air was rapidly sucked in through those pores, and within the next second, his sea of ether was full and his pores closed. He suddenly felt bloated as if he didn't need to eat anything for the next few days. That did happen with absorbing ether, as one could sustain a few days with it, but this one felt way too unnatural. After his pores closed, he slowly started to refine what was in his sea of ether. His body started to slowly separate the junk from the ether and it was introduced back into the environment through some random pores that opened up to dispose of them. After 2 hours of continuous refining, he was able to clear away all of the non-ether parts from his sea of ether and collected about half of the original volume instead. So, I have to do it again, huh? Okay, he thought and redid the whole absorption process again. However, he soon realized that there was a problem he hadn't expected. One couldn't just do the whole process again, and hope to gain the same amount of ether. Since the overall available volume in the sea of ether dropped each time he distilled the absorbed ether to get pure ether, the volume available for the next absorption was less. So, the closer one got to completely absorbing it, the more they would have to do it, and it would also take less time. Fortunately, there was an incredible benefit to this system that Ning only noticed after a few iterations. Since he was fundamentally filling his sea of ether every single time, it increased by a tiny amount with each round of absorption. This was far better than simply just using ether and expecting the sea of ether to grow. After he was done fully absorbing the most ether he could for the day, Ning decided to check out how much he had grown. He took a bowl outside and closed his eyes to focus on creating more water. Soon, water droplets formed in the air and started dropping down into the bowl. One after another, they dropped into the bowl without any restraint. By the time he was nearly out of ether, he had managed to collect an entire bowl of water. Holy **T. My ether amount nearly tripled. This absorption method is not that bad, he thought. If not for the fact that my automatic one works all the time, I would definitely be getting this. He threw away the water and put the bowl back inside the house. Then, he checked up on the brother and sister, who were concentrating on the book in front of them. Well, I guess I can leave them for a bit, he thought. Famir, he called. Yes, senior. He looked up. Once you are done reading it and have completely learned it, hide it somewhere where no one can find it. Or better yet, destroy it. Do what you think is best. I will go away for a bit, Ning said and left. Famir went back to reading the book. Alex walked outside and teleported to the mountain's base. He walked up to the barrier and flicked it as fast as he could. Ow! He screamed out loud and looked at his finger that was very swollen. Damn, how strong is this seal? He wondered once again. His energy had been filled, but unfortunately, he mostly got heat energy from this. He decided not to waste any more energy and didn't buy anything to heal his finger. It would heal on its own in due time. Seeing that it didn't even take him a single minute to gather his energy for the day, he couldn't help but laugh. He teleported back outside of Famir's house and decided to go around the village once more. He needed to pass the time for a bit. He walked around the village again, however, this time he couldn't see anyone there. Weird. It's finally daybreak. They should be here, Ning thought. He walked a bit further and saw a group of people gathered somewhere. Isn't that the old man's house? Ning thought and walked closer. As he got nearer, he could hear the old man shouting. To do this, we have to. Those criminals dare think they can waltz up to us and demand that we pay them just because they say so? No, they cut my son's hand today. Tomorrow, if we don't have the money, they will cut off your hands. Can you stand that? The old man's enthusiastic voice spoke out loud. However, there was also a hint of sadness in that voice. We can't. The entire crowd shouted. Ning felt a little chill go down his spine when he heard a little whimper come from the crowd. He walked up and shoved aside the crowd to get to the front. When he saw what was ahead, he was horrified. In the middle of the crowd was the old granduncle filled with tears, an old woman by his side sobbing quietly, and Janger whimpering as he clutched his left arm, which was cut clean at the elbow. He had a cloth wrapped around the cut, but blood was still pooling below him and he was starting to look pale. Step aside, Ning shouted and immediately walked to the center of the crowd. Get away from my son. The old man tried to stop Ning, but for some reason, he couldn't move at all. It was as if an invisible force was keeping him at bay. Show me, he said to Janger, who willingly showed his cut. Ning saw it and immediately pulled out a few ingredients from nowhere, shocking the entire crowd of villagers. Ning then quickly made a paste out of them and fed it to Janger. Before soon, he started to be immune to pain and was no longer bleeding from the cut. Ning then picked up the arm from the ground and picked up Janger easily and walked into the house. As soon he reached inside, he placed the cut-off hand at the place it was cut and then asked the system to heal it back. The system asked for nothing and healed his arm after taking the required amount of energy. Phew. Thank God I was out here. If they had let you lose any more blood, you would have likely died, Ning said. Janger was in disbelief at what he was seeing and couldn't think of anything to say. You bastard. What are you do? The old man walked in expecting Ning to be onto some trouble, only to find his son's arm fixed. Wah, what? The man exclaimed. How is this possible? What did you do? The old man demanded. The woman was right behind the old man and was equally in disbelief. When she heard her husband speak those words, she immediately hit him on the back of the head and started scolding him. This young man just helped our son and all you can do is question him, she scolded. She then walked up to Ning and took his hand as she bowed and started thanking him. The old man came to his senses as well and started thanking Ning. Ning told them they didn't have to, and it took him 5 minutes to convince them to stop thanking him. He then sent those two away to talk to Janger alone. What happened? Who did this? Ning asked. Janger was back to his senses now and started talking. They were Krom's men. They came asking for protection money from the villagers, Janger said. Ning was a little surprised. However, Janger added, I think they came for you. The protection money was all just a ruse to find you. When they noticed me and realized I was the one with you, they decided to make an example out of me. But really all they were doing was punishing me for what happened in the clothing store. Ning listened to the information and thought that made sense. Crom's men coming to ask for protection money from villagers that needed no protection was clearly a lie. These bastards, I should go kill them all, Ning thought. He was tempted to do that but somehow controlled himself. No, I can't do that, he thought. It wasn't because the bandits were innocent or didn't deserve to die. He was pretty sure that the system would allow him to kill whoever he wanted as long as they were bandits. However, getting rid of Crom didn't fix the main problem that was the underlying cause of the bandits appearing in the first place. It was because the protection system in this area was weak. The city guards were merely personal guards of the noble canon who weren't comparable to actual trained soldiers. It was unlikely they were ever going to be strong enough to deter the bandits at all. If he got rid of a Crom today, another Crom would soon realize that there was a power vacuum and just fill the void he created. I should go talk to the noble canon and see if he has any plans for it at all. I can also teach the soldiers how to fight if it were necessary, he thought. I will get going. For now, hide that hand and tell your parents to not let the village people know that it's been healed, okay? Act lie only cauterized the wound and that you don't have any hand left, Ning said. Janger didn't dare ask why and simply accepted. Ning nodded and left. He quickly went back to Famir's house and checked on them. They were still reading the book. How's the progress? Ning asked. Oh, senior, Mavena said in surprise. I have pretty much learned this absorption art, but brother is still learning, she said. Oh, is she more talented than him? Ning thought. Are you sure you don't want to practice it? Ning asked. Yes, absolutely, the little girl said with determination. Sigh, okay, Ning said. He could heal physical wounds, but mental wounds were something he couldn't treat. The girl was likely traumatized by using ether, so she no longer wanted to use it. It was understandable. I'm gonna put him here for protection, okay? Ning said. Put who h? Ah. Famir screamed a bit. Mavena got scared as well. Don't worry. He is my pet. He is here to protect you. Aegis, take care of them, okay? Ning said and disappeared before hearing their confirmation. He suddenly appeared outside of the town and walked a few minutes to enter it. He found a few people and asked for directions to the Lord's manor. They were a little weirded out at first, but once they saw his colorful robe, they didn't hesitate a single second before answering him. Color dyes must really be very rare, Ning thought. The town wasn't very large and it wasn't protected by any sort of wall. It was fully open and the forbidden forest was miles away from the city, so they were probably fine. Ning walked past a few crosswalks and finally saw a white manor with a rather large iron gate at the front. So this is the Lord's manor, huh? Ning thought. It looked like a normal rich building from back on Earth, so Ning was a little surprised. He walked up to the gate and was stopped by the guard at the gate. Stop. Who are you? The guard asked. My name is Ning, and I am here to meet with Noble Canon, Ning said. Do you have an appointment with the Lord? The guard asked. No, Ning said. Are you a noble yourself? The guard asked. No, Ning answered. Then, I cannot let you enter. Please return, the guard said. Ning scratched his head and pondered for a bit. He could easily go in and fight the Lord, but sneaking into someone's house and then offering help he didn't like doing it all the time. Is there any other way I can get a chance to meet the Lord? Ning asked. The guard thought for a bit and said, a week later, Lord Canon is organizing a party where anyone is allowed in as long as they can afford to pay the entry fee. You can go in at that time, the guard said. A week later. Very well. I will try to meet the Lord at that time. Thank you, brother, Ning said and walked back. He got into a remote location and teleported back to the village. For the next week, he would have to somehow spend some time. Should I just stop caring and leave? He thought for a second, but that doesn't seem like the right thing to do. His mind might forgive him if he did that, but his heart would never. He went to Janger's house to check upon him. Thankfully, he was perfectly fine now. He was still experiencing a little ghost pain, but that was mostly it. His other problems had all disappeared and could return back to carpentering if he wanted to. As he was walking out, the old man appeared once more. Young man, wait, he said. Yes? Ning said. I would like to apologize for my behavior earlier. I saw you as a foreigner who treated us like nothing but monkeys in a forest. However, it seems I was wrong. You treated my son's hand, and for that, you have my deepest gratitude, the old man said. It's okay, uncle. I wasn't offended, Ning said. No, I must apologize. If not for you, I might have lost another one of my sons today, the old man said as tears started dropping from his eyes. So many people die in this village every year, and every year I pray it's not my family. My first son, Feroy, already passed away, so I know my prayers are mostly unheard, but today, I feel like someone finally heard it. Thank you for hearing this old man's prayer. Ning felt a little sad as he walked back towards Famir's house. The old uncle was a little too emotional and it affected Ning a little as well. Sigh, poor old man. Losing a son must be weighing heavily on his mind, he thought. He started to pity the old man now. He sighed once again and reached Famir's house. He could hear laughter from inside the house. The kids are finally laughing, huh? He thought. He walked up to the door and saw Aegis's back against the door. Come back, Aegis, he said and pulled him back to the beast space. What? Huh? Where did he go? He heard the brother and sister speak at the same time. Oh, senior. You are back, Famir said when he noticed Ning. Huh? Did you take him back somewhere? Mavenna asked. Her face got a little sad when she didn't find Aegis there anymore. Do you guys like him? Ning asked, and the both of them nodded. Sigh, all right. Come outside. This place is too cramped for him, Ning said and started walking to the backyard. Aegis, these kids want to play with you. Come play here, Ning said and called out Aegis once more. Aegis was a little confused at first, but once he saw Mavenna, he immediately started jumping up and down. Ning thought of something and flew Mavenna into Aegis's arms. Fly, Ning said. Aegis immediately opened up his golden wings and flew into the sky. Both Famir and Ning could hear cries of terror and laughter from the little girl flying in the air. How did you make such a beast your pet, senior? He asked. Oh, I found him somewhere, Ning said. I helped him fight off a few guys and got him to follow me after that, Ning said. Oh, I wish I can get one in the future too, Famir said. Ning wanted to just tell him that it wasn't possible and that beasts that practiced ether were a different kind from Aegis, but decided not to. You can always keep hope. Just don't go finding a beast expecting to make it your pet. Ether beasts are very much against humans most of the time, Ning said. I understand, Famir said. They waited on the ground for a little more time before Ning called Aegis down. Mavenna laughed the entire time she was with him and had seemed to have forgotten her tragedy even if it was for a few brief seconds. Ning had a week to spare, so he decided to impart some knowledge to the kids regarding ether and learn it himself at the same time. He spent a few million energy to create books about the knowledge he had gathered. At first, they were quite reluctant to learn, at least Mavenna was. But getting them to do something after already making them do that once was easy. They were now very susceptible to suggestions. Ning also had to throw in playtime with Aegis and promised that if they learned in all under a week, he would let them play with another beast of his. Sigh, let alone Mavenna. Even Famir who is 17 is like a kid, Ning thought. I guess I was the same too at the time. He had a massive bowl in front of him, but it was a little further away from him. Ning was trying to create and throw water into that bowl. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He then started to visualize moving water inside his mind. Usually, he would just think about water, but this time he needed it to move. It had been 3 days since he started teaching the kids, and they were inside reading the books while he was himself outside practicing. Water started forming out in front of him. The amount of water he was able to form now was nearly a liter. He envisioned the water flying into the bowl. Ha! Splash! The water fell right where he had formed it. Ning's forehead, which was full of sweat, was now creased due to his frown. No matter what he tried, he couldn't get the water to move past its original location. Damn, am I really just an invoker? Am I not an enchanter at all? He thought. That thought left a bad aftertaste. He really wanted to believe that he was one of those rare double ether users. I guess I was only able to awaken as an invoker, he sighed. Ning heard someone walking and looked back to see Famir walking out of the house. What's wrong? Why aren't you studying? He asked. Oh, I need to go get some wood to make some fire. I need to cook some food, Famir said and took out an axe-like weapon from somewhere and pulled down a large log from the pile of logs behind the house. He propped it against another wood and started hitting it with the axe. Ha! Ning looked from the side and sighed. Famir had absolutely no talent at cutting woods. You are quite bad for someone who's supposed to have done this forever, Ning said. Famir stopped for a second and went back to cutting once more. Ha! He tried a few more times and stopped once more before saying, my father never let me do any heavy works. He knew I liked reading books, so he made it his job to never let me do any hard work and always encouraged me to read those books. Ha! He continued and kept on cutting the wood. Ning saw the sadness and determination in his eyes and decided to not interfere. After half an hour or so, he had enough wood to cook his food. He brought pots and pans from inside as well as ingredients for a stew. He then started to make a fire. He put some dried leaves inside the mud stove. He then took 2 stones and started to strike them to create sparks to make fire. However, no matter what he did, he couldn't make fire at all. "You need some help?" Ning asked. "No," he said. "I need to learn to do this by myself. Once you leave, Senior, I will need to take care of my sister and myself. So, I need to learn how to do this now." He kept on striking the stones and did manage to create some sparks, but nothing substantial enough to light a fire. "You really don't need my help?" Ning asked again. I probably do, but I also want to do it myself," Famir said. Ning thought for a moment and said, "Why don't you do this? Just think of the fire burning, and then try it. Just imagine a fire in your head and think of it appearing in front of you." Famir squinted his eyes and looked at Ning. "You want me to use ether?" he asked. "I don't know what you mean." Ning looked to the side and started whistling while continuously looking towards Famir from time to time. Famir looked towards the door and then turned to Ning. "Do you think I should do it?" he asked. "Other people are desperate to learn how to use ether, and you are letting go of such an amazing opportunity. Do you really think it's all right?" Ning asked him back. Famir thought for a second and nodded. "Yes, you are right. I will try," he said and turned around. He seemed to have stopped caring about what his sister thought and started using the gift he had been given. He closed his eyes and visualized fire. Even as Ning watched, a spark appeared in front of Famir that grew to become an open flame. "Ah, he got the location wrong. I should go help him with the woo." Ning stopped where he was. Suddenly, the fire in front of Famir that was being lit moved forward until it reached the dried leaves and started lighting it on fire. "Whoa!" Ning said in surprise, which broke off Famir's attention. He opened his eyes to see the fire in front of him and a rush of excitement shot up through his body. "I did it, Senior! I did it! I invoked fire!" Famir shouted out as he jumped up and down. "You didn't only invoke it, Famir. You manipulated the fire as well," Ning said. "What? I manipulated the fire?" Famir said in surprise. "That can't be. That would mean I'm a dual ether user." "Yes," Ning said. I can't believe it." "Let me try once more," Famir said. "I will try to manipulate something." Famir put a small leaf out to the side and started focusing. "Woo!" Famir exhaled and tried to concentrate on moving the leaf. His ether in his sea of ether started bubbling and the leaf started to move a little. It then slowly flew up and went where Famir wished. "Ha ha!" Famir's excited laugh could be heard as he moved the leaf more and more. Ning looked towards the leaf with a smile on his face as well. Just as he was watching it, the leaf fell to the ground. "Why did you drop the leaf?" Ning asked and looked behind only to see Famir who was falling to the ground. Ning immediately caught him with telekinesis and slowly laid him on the ground. "Don't worry, you're fine. Just use the technique I taught you a few days ago, okay?" Ning said. "Okay." Famir grunted to answer and concentrated. Ning could see the kid's skin change patterns as the pores opened up and devoured a lot of impure ether at once. Finally, Famir got control of his body and slowly stood up. This feels horrible," he said. "You have impure ether right now. Go and refine it. Once you are done, you can finally stop feeling like this," Ning said. "Later, I have to cook the F. Go, I can cook it," Ning said. Famir felt a little conflicted. Okay, he finally accepted and went back inside. Damn, he really did it. A dual ether user, huh? Even I feel a little jealous. Good for him, Ning thought and got to cooking the food. He looked at the ingredient he had and shook his head. They don't have that many spices, huh? I should get them a few seeds, Ning thought. He asked the system to create a few spices that he felt were crucial to every meal and cooked the stew. He exchanged the dried meat for some fresh meat from the beasts he killed in the secret realm, and a few rare ingredients as a better substitute for the vegetables. Once it was done, he took the stew into his storage space to keep it hot until it was time to eat. Famir was still refining the ether and Mavenna was busy reading the books. Even though she hated ether, she was quite engrossed in the knowledge. She is his sister after all, Ning thought. Seeing that they were both busy, he decided to do a quick run to the mountain and gather some energy. He teleported to near the seal and quickly touched the barrier. He immediately gained the total cap for the day. Wait, don't I? Status, he asked to see the status. A blue panel appeared in front of his vision as well as inside his mind. His eyes shined a little when he realized that he had finally done it. He had finally collected 10 billion kinetic energy. Aside from that, I have less than 3 billion energy left, Ning sighed as he saw that. Aside from that indestructible marble, he still had a lot of different things to buy, and he was getting a little annoyed. I will just get the rest of the energy through the ether absorption technique since I can't absorb this with sound, he thought. System, buy the energy cap double for kinetic energy, he said. Are you willing to spend 10 billion kinetic energy to double the energy cap? Ning had been planning this ever since he came to Vilmore, so he didn't hesitate at all and answered, yes. Yes. Confirmed. Congratulations, you have bought all kinetic energy cap increments. As a reward, the system has awarded host with toggle low-level physical damage ignorance. You now have the ability to ignore 15% of physical damage your body could suffer. You can improve this skill in the shop. Ning was a little surprised when he saw this. Oh, I forgot this happened last time with heat as well, Ning said and read the description of the technique. Similar to the one with the heat, he could basically ignore 15% of all kinetic energy he encountered. He decided to toggle it on as that would be quite helpful to him. I should probably get more of these techniques later on, he thought. After that, he teleported back to the house. It had barely been a few minutes since he had left, so he decided to collect some ether in the meantime since he had used it just half an hour earlier. He started absorbing the ether using the abyssal absorption art for the next 2 hours. As he was halfway done with refining the ether, he noticed something. Suddenly, it felt like his body was much lighter and that he could use the ether much more efficiently. Whoa! Did I just rank up from ether starter to ether student? He thought. What should have taken him 10 days, took him 4 days after he bought the abyssal absorption art. I feel a little bad using so much energy for the automatic one, he thought. Whatever, there is no point in crying over spilled milk. He went around to the rooms and called them for dinner. Thanks to ether, they could go without food for a while without getting hungry. At higher ranks, they could go by weeks without eating anything. Ning put down 3 bowls on the kitchen table and took out the stew before using a ladle to put it into the 3 bowls. Famir looked at the stew in front of him and frowned a little. It looked a bit different from what he would have expected the ingredients he put out to look like. Senior, this is, he asked. This is the stew I made. Oh yeah, I swapped in a few things of my own and added other things. Eat up, Ning said as he took a spoonful of the stew and went. Famir hesitated a little and looked towards his sister to see that she was going to eat it without any question as well. Sigh, whatever, he thought and took a spoonful and ate it. As soon as he put the stew inside his mouth, multiple flavors burst out inside of his mouth. The meat was very soft, the vegetable was still crunchy, and the spices used in the stew were beyond anything he had ever eaten. Senior, what did you put in here? He asked. Ah, it's just a few ingredients I had a spare of. Don't worry and just eat, Ning said as he also took one spoonful after another. He himself was a little surprised how good the meat and vegetable substitutes made the stew. Man, should I become a cook or what? He thought, but immediately threw away the idea. After they were done finishing the meal, Famir took the dishes and brought them outside to wash them. After this meal, they wouldn't need to eat for the next few days. In the next 4 days, Ning managed to create another 2 books and handed them to the kids as well. He didn't know if they had finished reading the others or not, but he still decided to hand them over anyway. Alright kids, since you did what I asked and read the books all week long, here's your reward, Ning said and brought out Aegis. Aegis got out and smiled when he saw Mavenna. He was quite happy to see the little girl. Mavenna was excited too, but her face also showed a bit of sadness. What's wrong? Ning asked. You promised another beast as well, she said. Haha, I was getting to him. This one is a little bit of a rascal and may try to hurt you, so get ready, okay? Blue, come out, he called. Blue light shined as Blue suddenly appeared in front of the kids. If the kids had to tilt their heads 20 degrees upwards to fully see Aegis, they would have to tilt their heads up to 60 degrees upward to fully see Blue. Blue was around 5 meters tall, and that was just his vertical height. His real length was more like 15 meters. What is that? Famir asked in fear. This is Blue. He is a flood dragon, Ning said. Gone? Famir was confused. There were no dragons in Vilmore. Just think of him as a pet for now, and stop worrying about what he is, Ning said. Master. I can't feel. Blue spoke out loud. Famir and Mavena only heard growling and got a little scared. We are in a place where chi is unavailable. You will have to wait a few more months before you can feel chi again, Ning said. For today, look after these two and play with them. I have somewhere to be, Ning said. Do what this boy says, okay? No, you are my only master, Blue cried out loud. I know, and I'm just asking you to follow him for today, Ning said. That is impossible. He is not worthy, Blue said. I get that. Ning felt annoyed and stopped speaking for a second. Then, his eyes brightened as he had an idea. Do what they say until I come back, and if you do your job properly, I will give you 3 drops of a true dragon's blood essence. Blue's body immediately perked up. True dragon's blood essences? Yes, 3 drops. That should help you in evolving, shouldn't it? Ning asked. Blue didn't even think for a second before answering, accepted. Ning smiled and looked at Famir. I will be back in a few hours. They will follow your commands, just have fun with them until then, Ning said. Oh, visitor. Where are you going? The old uncle asked Ning as he was leaving the village. There was still time for the party, so he had decided to walk there, instead of wasting energy by teleporting. I have a little job in the town and I was just going there, Grand Uncle, Ning said. Haha. You started calling me Grand Uncle as well. Very well. I am happy to hear that. So, how long does this nephew plan on staying in the village? Would you be free to have a meal in our place for once? The old uncle asked. Ning thought for a second and said, sure. I should be back before midnight, I can have my meal then. Haha. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to pay back what little I can for helping my son, the old man said. I will make sure to have the best food prepared for you when you return. Ning smiled and waved before leaving, and made his way to the town. The town at the edge of the map bore no name and was only known as Lord Cannon's town. Lord Cannon was a baron who after his excellent results as a merchant was able to get the baron title from the emperor of the Thorman Empire. He could have left this city whenever he wanted and gone to a better city, but he decided to stay behind for the betterment of the town. So, the residents of the city liked him a lot. Did you guys hear? Lord Cannon is hosting a party tonight, and anyone with 10 rops can enter. Ning heard a person speak on the way to the mansion. Whoa, 10 rops per person. Can people even pay that much? How many people will he have? Another person asked. I've heard that he has sent invitations to figures in the other cities as well, so there should be quite a lot of people, the first person said. Then he might start earning hundreds of rops. I wonder what he will do with so much money. The other person felt quite jealous. His monthly earnings came to be around 5 rops, and here was a rich man earning so much just by throwing out a party. Well, if it's Lord Cannon, I'm sure he will use it to help us instead. I really hope he uses it to fight back the bandits. They've been harassing us so much, the first person said. Similar conversations could be heard everywhere along the way to the mansion. Ning saw carriages running down the street towards the Lord's mansion. Oh, this really is a big party. I wonder what the event is, Ning thought. When he reached the mansion, there were 2 different sets of lines to enter. One was for people who were coming through the carriages. They simply handed a card and were allowed entry. The other was a line of people who paid coins to enter. Oh, so not everyone has to pay, huh? Only those who weren't invited but still want to join have to pay, Ning thought as he realized. He got onto the line and paid 10 rops to enter. It was quite quick as not many could afford that amount of money. Ning followed the crowd and entered a massive tent that was set up right next to the house. Inside was a crowd of well-dressed people with wine in hand, talking to the other people. Everyone wore colorful dresses that seemed more than extravagant to Ning. Are colorful dresses like jewelry here? Ning wondered. He couldn't understand why that would be the case though. Maybe I will learn once I buy those other pieces of knowledge, he thought. He took a glass of wine from a passing staff and looked at it. The deep red liquid, with a slight violet hue and a strong scent of alcohol, nearly made him put it back on the tray. Damn, I've never drunk alcohol. What the hell am I doing? He thought. Still, he wanted to mix in with the crowd so he decided to just try it. I hope it's not as bad as it smells, he hoped and took a sip. The fruity taste of the wine entered his mouth and left a pleasant feeling behind as it slid down his throat. Ooh, that's not bad. That just tastes like fruit juice, he thought and drank a little more. The wine was much better than he had expected. What he didn't realize was that his body was so high level that the tiny bit of alcohol did nothing to him. In fact, even as it entered his body, the ether and chi in his body destroyed the toxic elements before they reached his stomach. To him, wine was just something that tasted like juice. He looked around, tried to see if he could find Lord Cannon. There were quite a few people that had a lot of people gathered around them, but Ning didn't think any of them were the Lord at all. Just then, a portion of the room stopped talking, prompting the rest of the room to do so as well. Ning turned around to see what was the cause of the silence. At the door of the tent was a nearly 60-year-old man, walking in with a cane. He had 3 people by his side. 2 of them were dressed in less colorful clothes and looked like servants to the man, while the final man was in perhaps more colorful clothes than the Lord himself. He looked to be in his late 20s and very closely resembled the old man next to him. Brother? No, son. Ning guessed that this was the son of Lord Cannon. The old man walked up to the center of the tent, a few meters away from Ning, and turned to look at the rest of the crowd and said, "Thank you all for coming here. I and my son are grateful for your arrival." The old man bowed a little in gratitude. The son was a second late, but he bowed as well. His serious businessman-like face didn't seem to like bowing to others. "Please enjoy the party for now." Ning heard a few people talk and realized that Cannon's name was actually not Cannon. Cannon was just a family name he chose after he became a baron and was allowed to have one. His real name was Demir. He had started his Cannon merchant business from a very young age and had become successful by selling a lot of different things. Once successful, he had chosen to make the business name his family name. The old man had started socializing with the different people and Ning couldn't find an opening to talk about the bandit situation at all. "Look at young Kel. He's already so big. Say, old man Cannon, I know that the Freed family's daughter is young and a match for your son. Why don't you get him married?" a person asked Cannon. "I've tried finding girls for him, but he just wants to focus on the business for now," Cannon said as he shook his head. "I see. He does look like a person with very high ambition and will. Maybe once Zand comes back home from his studies, he can help his brother and relieve the load. That way, young Kel can focus some of his time on making a family," the man said. Cannon's face switched from a smile to a frown for a split second before going back to a smile as he said, "I hope he comes back soon." Cannon went from one high-status person to another, acting as the host of the party he was. For some reason, he didn't socialize with the people he didn't recognize at all. That made it hard for Ning to get a conversation with him. Ning even wanted to just go talk with Cannon's son who was called Kel, but the young man didn't seem like the type of person who wanted to be at the party at all. Even with girls all around him, all he did was half listen and half ignore them. That guy is no good at all to talk to, Ning thought. He waited for Cannon to get free. However, after speaking around for an hour, Cannon finally went to the podium set up in the tent and started speaking. "Once again, I thank every single one of you that came to this party. I hope you've had a good time here," the old man said. "While it looks like I organized this party for social gathering, but the truth is, I have a motive behind this party," he said. The crowd didn't get surprised at all when they heard this. People were expecting that to begin with. Some people guessed he was going to expand his merchant company. Some guessed he was looking for a lady for his son. Some even guessed that he was going to reveal that he had gone from a baron to a viscount. The old man opened his mouth and spoke, "As many of you know, my second son Zand is in a city far away for the last 3 years, learning the ways of an ether expert." The crowd nodded. That was common knowledge. However, that is all a lie. My second son was never in any school. That was a lie I made to hide the harsh truth. In actuality, for the last 3 years, my son Zand has been paralyzed from the neck down. He can't speak or make a sound either. He can't even swallow his food, and we need to feed him gruel just to keep him alive, Cannon said as tears started rolling down his eyes. Kel, who was standing behind him, also got sad when Cannon revealed the truth. It seemed the truth had been weighing on them a lot. The crowd was shocked when they learned the truth. They started whispering around, causing a lot of murmur in the crowd. "Please listen to me, I have more to say," Cannon said, and the crowd stopped speaking. One day, he accidentally fell from the second story and hurt his spine, paralyzing him in the process. "For the last 3 years, I've been secretly trying to find good doctors to find the treatment of my son's paralysis, but all the ones I found have been unable to do anything. So, if you know of any good doctors, please let me know of them. I will be forever grateful to you." Cannon bowed towards the audience. The audience grew silent for a few seconds, and Cannon's heart nearly dropped to his feet in fear. Have you tried the doctors from Pestonia? They should be able to cure anything, a person in the audience asked. I have, but they aren't replying to my letters for some reason, and it is so far away that I can't go there myself, Cannon said. You should try Dr. Jelba. I heard he's quite good, another person said. Sadly, he's already seen my son. He couldn't treat him at all, Cannon replied. What about ether healers? Somebody else asked. I've asked for the few, but they didn't even find the cause of the paralysis, so they couldn't heal him at all, Cannon said. The audience suggested a few doctors, but no matter who they said, Cannon seemed to have already called them and have them be unsuccessful. Cannon was starting to lose hope. I am a doctor myself. I can look at your son, Ning said from the side. Cannon's eyes lit up and looked at him in hope. However, when he saw how young Ning was, he quickly lost it. Cannon smiled a little and said, Thank you, young man, but I think I will need someone with more experience and knowledge. I hope that doesn't offend you. Not at all, but are you sure you want to miss an opportunity to save your son? Ning asked. That got Cannon to stop and think once. Kid, how can you even prove you are a doctor? How can we tell that you are not trying to take advantage of the situation to get close to us? Kel spoke bluntly towards Ning. Cannon frowned a little when he heard this but shook his head as that was the truth. I won't deny it. I am trying to get close to Lord Cannon, Ning said. However, that doesn't mean I am lying about me being a doctor either.